I went from running over 4 hours for the marathon to running 2:21 for the marathon in a relatively short space of time. And I did it because I understood this one factor. Put the minimum amount in for the maximum possible result. For the best possible result, put the minimum in. So that once you add to that, and I'm talking literally, when I ran 2:21 for the marathon, I was running 50 miles a week. And so the minimum amount in means that when you add to that incremental additions, whether it's more running, more structure, cycling or cross-training, better nutrition, the results on the other end are exponentially better. And that can take you towards your potential instead of just being happy as a new runner or somebody's within the first 2 or 3 years being happy about moving forward. Most runners are happy just moving forward. I got a bit better than last year and therefore I'm happier. Most people are like that, whether it comes to running or whether it comes to life. I've got a bit better car than I did 5 years ago. My house is a little bit bigger than 10 years ago. And so I'm happy. They're content. And content and comfort is the absolute enemy when it comes to massive improvement and shocking yourself with percentage gains improvement. You've got to remove those limiting beliefs. So when I was running 2:21 for the marathon and also 6:41, 6 hours 41 minutes for the 100K, just 3 weeks later, I was literally running 80 to 90 kilometers a week. But on top of that, there was other things that to me, I'd added them in a way that I knew exactly what worked and exactly what didn't. And I'm going to try to explain that process to you now so that you can do exactly the same and make the most of the time that you have available, especially if you're in a full-time job or you're still at school, especially if you do that, so that you can add the right things and take the right things away in order to get the best possible result. Become the best version runner of yourself that you can be. Now, if you get into running or you get into fitness and you get excited and you go onto a website or you go into Holland & Barrett or a vitamin shop and a sports supplement shop, all of a sudden you get vitamin A, I need vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B, some folic acid and zinc, I need some glucosamine sulfate, I need some protein, I need some plant protein, pea protein, I need some protein bars. Before you know it, you spent $200 and you've got 30 new things to add in and you're hitting the gym, you're running and you're moving forward, but you have no idea out of those 30 things that you put in your basket, which things work, which things actually give you a benefit, what's just a placebo and having no effect at all, and what you should add more of, most importantly, and what you should take away, even probably more important. And it's exactly the same thing with training. A lot of you will ask me things in the comments like, what about running twice a day? Like the best people in the world, they're running in the morning, then running in the afternoon, 6 hours later. What about a double threshold? What about a back-to-back long run? What do I do in the gym in order to, all these different things are levels ahead of where you probably are right now. And this is not to sort of belittle you but we've got to have strong foundations. And I learned this the hard way by getting injured because I just thought I was obsessed with running from the very get-go. In 2010 when I started, I just wanted to be the fastest runner that I possibly could and work towards making it a professional gig, a full-time gig. And so I read everything I could, I reached out to the people that would respond, and I listened to everybody that would give me a minute and just implemented pretty much everything apart from what was really important, which was the rest and recovery and the way to treat your body. And so if I would have implemented each one of these things one by one, I would know exactly what worked for me and exactly what didn't. And when I was running 80 kilometers a week for a 2:21 marathon and a 6:41 100K, 6:41 100K it's a decent time. I think it's top 6 or 7 still of all time UK times. It's pretty good. 2:21 is an average marathon time. It's probably elite, and you probably kind of hate me for saying that. But for a white guy, Eliud Kipchoge is already showered and finished. He's already on a plane back to Kenya, and I'm still in my final kilometer. That's the difference. And so I knew very quickly, in order to turn this into a full-time gig, in order to be professional, in order to be able to spend my entire energy, 110% focus on running, I'm going to need to find my niche, which was ultra running, which was 100K. I'm going to need to get better at that. So that's a better time relatively than the marathon time. But the way I got there was first of all learning from my mistakes and then realizing a good 5K runner, if I can improve my 5K time and my speed training, that's going to improve all my distances. Because the more speed that I have, the easier race pace, whether that's half marathon, 10K or an ultra marathon, the easier that's going to feel. The more I do in the long run, the more specific that is, but without sort of overreaching so that my progress is linear and not kind of like, oh, injury, oh, I'm up again, oh, I'm back before I was because I'm ill, and then again, because it's easy to lose your discipline and motivation if you cannot get out there and do what you love, run. And so implementing the long run and then seeing what that does to the speed, but then what I did is understood that I want to be in this for the next 20 years. I want to keep improving for the next 20 years. And so what I saw from people around me is they were doing too much. A lot of British runners and American runners go for the magic number of 100 miles a week. And I always laugh at it because it's such a round number. It's such like 160K, 100 miles. Like what is it about that? And it's the theory of that's what worked for the best in their day. But it's not. It's a complete fallacy. Like the fact that Steve Jones might have done that once or twice a year, and Sebastian Coe is famous for saying, actually, I was doing 30, 40 miles a week in order to be a good 800 and 1500 meter runner. We've got to look at not just what people advertise, but the actual truth, the facts, the cold hard facts. And that's about the minimum amount you can put in for the maximum reward. So once I realized that I want this to be 20 years and I want to keep on moving forward, then I realized that cycling is going to be my best friend. And I remember sending this email because I was all about, I'd done 5Ks, park runs, I'd gotten my time to 16:20, I'd done a 10K and just dipped under 40 minutes. Then I went to an ultra marathon in Spain, and then it's 50K uphill. And I thought to myself, if I can be as good as I possibly can be at this race, my first time, I just tried to survive. I just tried to finish. I wanted to finish in less than 8 hours. And I did better than that. I did something like 5:40. And I was so happy, but I wanted to be like the people on the podium. So I reached out to the people that had won that race before. And the only guy that responded, Eric Seedhouse, who's a famous astronaut now and a famous like Ironman, triple decker man, or whatever it's called, where you do 3 Ironmans up back to back, he'd won that race. And he told me, you need to be doing 100 miles a week on the bike. And I was like, what do you mean bike? Like nothing to do with running. But the running muscles for running uphill are exactly the same as what you have on the bike. So it's high cadence on the bike, on the flat, and it's just you building the engine, building the lungs and the heart, and high cadence. So you're not building cycling muscles, you're keeping it all on the heart and lungs, and that would move you forward. So not only did it improved me muscularly as well. I don't even know how to say that word. But I was able to push harder on short uphills and longer uphills. And when you're able to go out on the bike and cycle 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10, 12 hours, how much easier does an ultramarathon then feel? And then, because I decided that is my niche and that's what I'm going to specialize in and that's what I'm going to turn into a full-time gig, how much does my cycling improve my ultra running versus adding another training session, another hard training session, or adding another type of run, or adding more weights or whatever. So by adding that cycling and getting to 100 miles, 160 kilometers a week, and adding that in and seeing what the difference made, then I thought, okay, do I want to be doing more of this? And as I added more, I got better. And as I added more, I realized I'm on the bike for 10, 12, 15 hours a week, and then 20, 25 hours a week in the winter when I'm building a base of endurance. What does that then look like? And how much should I then be running in order to, obviously I've got this huge engine because I'm doing 20 to 30 to 35 hours out there running and cycling, plus my weights. What does that then look like when I add key sessions in? I start to do the interval session. I'm hitting it hard because I'm well recovered and I'm fresh because I'm not letting the bike take it out of me. I'm just building my heart and lungs. What does that look like? What does it look like when I run a hard long run, a specific long run, but I can quite quickly get on the bike afterwards and do another 3 hours? How much is that going to feed into what my goal is? And so without knowing those things, and then we're talking about weight training, we're talking about building the glutes and the hamstrings, making robust quads and robust lower legs, making sure you're injury proof so you can really push on your sessions. How does that affect your speed? How does your diet and eating the right foods and enough calories, how does that affect your strength and your ability to take in the training, to absorb the training? These are massive things, just those things alone. Speed, weight training, building bigger glutes and stronger glutes, and the diet, how does that look like if all 3 of those are working? Exponential gains. And then if you get your nutrition right, it's another level because it's not only affecting your race day nutrition, but it's affecting your ability to go fast in the interval session and your ability to go far in the long run and at pace, specific pace towards your race. But it's also stopping the level of muscle damage that you should receive from the interval session when you're going fast. and the long run. It's preventative maintenance. You're stopping your muscles from breaking down as much as they usually would because you're teaching your body to take in the level of carbohydrate that you need in order to keep you energized for the session. But the knock-on effect of that is you also don't have the same muscle breakdown. What does that look like, and how does it compound when you turn weeks into months into a training schedule? These are massive differences, and you shouldn't overlook these things. So when I hear about, okay, what double runs or like back-to-back long run or very kind of specific parts of, lactate threshold, getting in the lab and looking at it, we've got to get the basics right first, and we've got to see what works for us. Got to understand what a speed session actually looks like, how to box it off, to get used to doing those week after week after week. Not too hard so we can go again on the Sunday long run, learn how to box the long run off so that we can then train hard again on the Wednesday. And it's that consistency over time and then adding things. So I hope you got something from that. I'm super passionate about this because it worked so well for me. And I'll try to sort of look and building in the description the benefits that I actually got and how much it helped me. Thanks a lot for listening. If you got anything from this, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below.